Opening in Washington, D.C. in 1855, the complex you see here was one of the first asylums to open in the United States. Spearheaded by psychiatric reformer Dorothea Dix, who had been successful in assisting in creating several other asylums across the East, the government hospital for the insane started as just 4 regular brick buildings on former farmland. Together with Thomas Kirkbride, a 250-patient hospital began accepting patients while it was still under construction. In fact, it would not be until 1960 that the final phase was completed. Operating as the first federally run hospital in the U.S., when the Civil War began 6 years after it opened, the U.S. Navy commandeered a building to become their hospital. It would not be until 1916 that Congress would rename the hospital to St. Elizabeth's as a push to remove insane from the name. Yeah, a bunch of those chairs all stored here. Fireplace in here. Oh wow, here's a bunch of important African Americans. Tubman, Sojourner Truth. Yeah, here's Martin Luther King. And somebody of course had to punch out the eyes. Main entrance must be. Yeah, this one's a lot more graffitied out. Overcrowding had been an issue since the 1870s, and patients would be separated by not only sex, but race as well. Even so, in the early years, patient conditions were regarded as positive, although the hospital would be investigated in 1869 under allegations that patients were poorly fed and doctors visited some wards only twice a year. Patients were said to have frozen to death the previous winter, and employees would be paid off when they became too horrified to work there any longer, while the board of directors hosted lavish meetings at the expense of the government. Head physician Dr. Charles Nichols was also said to have showed rebel proclivities during the Civil War, but it would turn out that much of these allegations were by disgruntled ex-employees, and the only changes brought about were to accounting practices. After a second investigation in 1876, which he passed, Nichols would retire. Somebody stayed in here. Actively, somebody sleeps right there. That's why that board is over the door. So people would at least not go walk right in. He's got $1 bill. He left his money here, $1 and a penny. Yeah, dude, this dude is banging somebody here. Frequently. Oh, what is... Oh, it's, yeah, so a handicapped person could get in and out of it. So these were just all their rooms. They would yet again be investigated by a committee appointed by Congress in 1906 of patient abuse, poor food, and mismanagement. Although cases of abuse were reported, they were isolated incidents not sanctioned by the hospital's doctor. In the following decades, St. Elizabeth's would expand greatly in size and in treatments offered. The first 3 buildings we are in are ward buildings R, I, and N, which were part of the massive expansion that began in 1900 and were the first buildings constructed on the opposite side of the campus from the Kirkbride. Due to their separation, males described as disturbed, destructive, or untidy were secluded here. Also, the farm laborers were placed in these buildings so they could be closer to the hospital farm. Oh yeah, they're staying here for sure. Yeah, this is... Hydrotherapy began seeing a prominent use in the US during the 1880s. A dentist and nursing school was also added during that decade. That bird is right outside. This is something to do with dental. A nice fresh needle. Zone 2, lobby infrared glass break sensors, panic hold up, 5-volt remaining protection on IntelliPoint annucator. Oh yeah. Look, those are like for
pharmacy.
Yeah, test tube. That's like to put a little tube in. That's to weigh it. That's like a heater or a freezer. Oh yeah, a lot of tests. Yeah, here's from 91. In 1884, Dr. Isaac Blackburn accepted the role as special pathologist, where he conducted 50 post-mortem exams in his first year, and by 1901, he was considered one of the international leaders in the study of brains of mentally ill patients. St. Elizabeth's would also play a role in the development of far more infamous psychiatric treatments as well. In 1924, Walter Freeman began working at the newly built Blackburn Laboratory, where, on Saturdays, the lab would be full of spectators for experiments, such as one where Freeman inspected almost 1,500 cadavers of schizophrenics by stringing them by their ears in front of a grid and taking their measurements. Throughout its years, over 15,000 autopsies were recorded at the hospital, and thousands of brain samples were held in the Blackburn lab, including a slide of brain tissue from World War II Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. Be quiet, because those fuckers. Okay, be very quiet though. Yeah. The people outside this building we are in are residents of the men's shelter that operates on the grounds. In 1930, the hospital would actually film live patients and then their brains after death, sharing the results with hospitals around the country. That's the security building right there. So I think this is where they probably brought the bodies in. Yeah. Right through here. Yep. You're right, this was an incinerator. Incinerator controls. Yeah, this is where they would burn the bodies, I think. Yeah. Or dispose of at least that. You couldn't fit a body in there, but you could dispose of like medical waste and things. Yeah. Freeman would go into private practice in 1933 and would pioneer the frontal lobotomy, traveling to asylums across the country to perform the procedure. Some videos on this hospital have incorrectly stated that the lobotomy performed on Rosemary Kennedy, sister to John F. Kennedy, took place at this hospital, though that is incorrect. In fact, lobotomies were rarely used at St. E's, and the hospital described them as drastic and mutilating operations, only to be used as a last resort. What is true, however, is the research of electroshock therapy in an attempt to cure homosexuals of their preferences in the 1940s. St. Elizabeth's has been regarded as one of the worst institutions in its barbaric treatment of the LGBTQ community, when in 1948 the sexual psychopath law was passed that allowed anyone even expressing an interest in the same sex could be locked up at the hospital. During World War II, the office that would later become the CIA used St. Elizabeth's to test out a truce serum on volunteers. Look at this. It's... what? I don't even know. It's a ton of rocks and liquor bottles. Yeah, this is somebody like stored all this stuff, but who in their mind would keep all these rocks? Like, not be here long. Well, Tara, they're not coming in, and if they do, they're coming in where everybody else is. Yeah. But look at this. And like sunglasses. They've got like it all set up. Like they've got some Christmas ornaments and these rhino pills. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, I think. Like, it's somebody who collects rocks, but why would a homeless person collect all of this? Yeah, the keyboard, and there's candles and photos. These are cell phones. This is so strange. There's something in that bottle. Oh, this is the marble from upstairs that we saw. You're right. That was like on the bathrooms. Yeah, that's broken off. But this is just stuff they picked up off like the roads and stuff. Yeah. Oh, you've seen this? This is that guy that collects
rocks. He calls them spirits. Don't call them rocks. They're spirits.
It's like a homeless guy?
Yeah. This is his spirit room.
Like, look at this. There's a gold watch and stuff. Some boxes that are still sealed back there. It's an old hard hat. This must be his, like, chamber. There's his little seat. It's got... I don't want to know what's in those bags, to be honest with you. Because it smells really, really, really bad in here. Let's see what's in this, though. Nothing. Our building would convert into a general hospital to support Blackburn Lab once that was constructed, and the remainder of the buildings we are going in will all have connecting hallways between them for easy travel. We've entered the W.W. Eldridge building, built in 1931. The first of the next three we will be exploring are referred to as the Maple Quadrangle. This building was designed as the medical and surgical building for the entire hospital. It had 200 beds and even contained a pharmacy, nursing school, and a model ward for students to practice. Even with this and a tuberculosis building built behind here, the hospital was still 1,700 patients over capacity, and more buildings were required. So here was X-rays, film processing area. It's locked. But yeah, here's so like unexposed. You know, they could put things in between the two. Here was like, this must have been some sort of a patient's room, because here's ultrasound anatomy transverse plane. And then there's another one for a parasagittal plane. Cast room. Must have just, yeah, put, here's like, it's like a laundry type thing. It just must have been, maybe you had to put a cast on like a broken arm or whatever. Authorized personnel only. Nurses station, I guess. Check out. It's a glass cabinet that's like built with the wall. I can't believe nobody smashed that. X-ray films too. Could drop them in there. What the heck are these? Power guard indicator. Push to silence alarm. Safe hazard. So something. I'm not entirely sure. There's nothing on that side, really. That's just a call thing, I think. The hospital saw its peak in the 1950s, with around 8,000 patients and 4,000 staff, while the design capacity was just 5,700. Front lobby. 2 double-door elevators there. We're behind the nurses thing now. Oh, these are blueprints. These are all the blueprints of the hospital right here. That's like the main thing there. Plot plan. Here's the basement floor plan. It's a gymnasium. Just every single building and every single floor. Oh yeah. Some sort of workshop or something. And then, yeah, what the hell is this? Oh yeah, you could put your hands in, you know, to do it, because it's something probably either hot or it had to be untouched.
That looks like newer.
It's a screen door. And it's got some...
CAT scanner?
Yeah. But it's a joke. Partitions and doors of this room have been insulated with sheet lead. I think this was like, well, that's loud. Maybe another x-ray something or other. The first criminally insane patient admitted was Richard Lawrence, who had attempted to assassinate President Andrew Jackson in 1835 and was transferred to St. E's when it opened in 1855. John Hinckley Jr. would stay at St. E's until his release in 2016, after he failed to assassinate President Reagan in 1981. Other famous patients include Charles Guiteau, who assassinated President James Garfield and was locked here until his execution in 1882. Ex-patriot Ezra Pound, who was captured by soldiers during their invasion of Italy during World War II, was sent here for over 12 years for his collaboration with the enemy. He was noted as entertaining visiting fellow poets and anti-Semites at the hospital, which he referred to as the Bug House. The hospital also housed at least one known serial killer and one suspected one. James Swan Jr. murdered 4 people around the city between February and April 1993 by driving around and opening fire. Nicknamed the Shotgun Stalker, he claimed to have heard voices telling him to kill, including the voice of Malcolm X, and he was declared criminally insane. Finally, we have Robert Askins. We have covered him in our On the Trail of video about the Freeway Phantom, and for a full history of that case and Askins, a link to that video is below and at the end of the screen. But to summarize, between 1971 and 1972, 6 young African American girls were abducted and dumped along the highways in the surrounding areas of St. Elizabeth's. The FBI profile of the killer stated that they believed St. E's was an important place in the mind of the killer, as it was the epicenter between all the dump sites. The case remains unsolved to this day, but one of the prime suspects was Robert Askins, a man who had been in and out of St. Elizabeth's for crimes since 1939. Somebody stays here. Oh my gosh, they have a whole setup. Yeah, they got a look. This is the same that's the first floor had that same, all these bottles set up, so I wonder when this newspaper was from. March 17th, 2021, so that's not long ago. Yeah. Here's, he keeps some little... Yeah, look, he's got some food in here. A really gross onion. A little toy. I don't know what the hell this is. It's like a rain net. And that's something... Purple haze? Look at this room. It's just full of trash. Absolutely full. I can't believe people stay down here. That must have held like a boiler or some sort of thing on it. I didn't even notice him literally right there.
They're not very sweet, but I love them tart.
The Nichols and White buildings were designed as receiving buildings for new admittances where they could be observed and placed in the appropriate ward. They also function to keep the short-term patients here, and as such, the majority of treatments could also be provided in these buildings. The Nichols building was constructed in 1936 and served as the female short-term ward. It's just like its own little section here. There's an elevator. Yeah, so we're going up into this right now.
Oh, dude, that's fucking weird to me. I see the reflection and looking at it. It looks like there's a light on it.
Oh god.
Just its own little section. Yeah, here's like a little... This looks like a dishwasher. Yeah, this was dishwashing. They'd put their stuff there and bring it in. Well, holy water, that's what you think? That very well could be, because...
Because that's like all the...
Yeah, unless it's just a very tiny drinking fountain. It was like the women's closet. Here's all the old, looks like pants or something. 1980 symphony. It just somehow miraculously got untouched. Davies Symphony Hall. Used to have a palm tree mural up, long gone. Chaplain's office. Yeah, this is being cleaned up for whatever reason. Why would this one section?
Well, we saw that stuff
Random pile of books. Yeah, they're just books. But this is like construction equipment too. So it's like for some reason they're cleaning this one little area up. The surrounding neighbors had little to fear most of the time, with minor incidents such as a paperboy being robbed of $1 back in 1905 by one patient. However, in 1909, a patient working on a road gang went on a rampage after killing his foreman with a crowbar and, while escaping, killed a female patient and beat another one, breaking her arm and bashing her face. The White Building was constructed in 1934 and served as the male short-term ward. It later became the National Institute of Mental Health Neuroscience Center and Research Hospital. NIM, as it was abbreviated to, would go on to take control of the hospital in its later years as deinstitutionalization saw asylums across the country closing. That's all untouched. That's nuts. Kind of interesting paneling. Male dormitory. Between 1970 and 1972, 10 of the older buildings would be shuttered as they were outdated and the inmate population would decrease. The following decade saw the struggle of turning the hospital from the federal government to the District of Columbia, and it would not be until 1984 the transfer was approved to be finalized by 1991. In 1981, when over 125,000 Cubans came to America, the refugees with mental illnesses were brought up to this hospital. Shortly after their arrival, they went on a 3-day rampage, destroying buildings and even took control of some sections until riot police regained control, and 87 of the inmates were sent to prisons. While the government held on to the West Campus, which they turned into the headquarters for both the Coast Guard and Homeland Security, the rest of the asylum sat largely abandoned after a new Soul building was constructed in the new millennium to house a small amount of committed patients. Redevelopment of St. Elizabeth's East began in 2012, converting the buildings into a mixed-use commercial and residential neighborhood. Work finally began on the Maple Quadrangle in 2021, and Phase 2 is estimated to be completed by 2024.